Hi and welcome to Talk Solent, the show where we give our opinions on news that's cropped up this week in our region and beyond. I'm Jonathan Hines and we'll be scrutinising 7 articles today. Joining us on the sofa, giving us their thoughts and expertise are Michelle Brooks for her first time on the show, Peter Marcus of Portsmouth Youth Voice and Ian Fielder of Botley Hypnotherapy. Now to start off today, drones. They're becoming more and more popular, as you may have noticed. Originally used by the military, they are now something that has really caught on. Some guidelines for ownership and usage have been issued on the Isle of Wight following complaints. We'll have a look at some of the guidelines in this first part of talk, but let's ask our 3 panellists right now, should there be a mandatory licence required for owning and using a drone? Right, who'd like to start? Maybe, welcome Michelle, it's your first time. Maybe you'd like to start on this one.
Actually, no, I think there should be some form of licence.
Yeah, have you encountered a drone yet yourself, Michelle?
No, but I have seen a couple of my friends on Facebook using them. I can understand what, all these extra laws, but the problem is who's going to enforce them? It would surely be much more easier if, obviously, you have these licences in place.
We'll try and appeal to people's better nature, get them to use them sensitively.
Yeah.
Peter Marcus, welcome.
I fear we could start here by trying to talk about a nationwide ad campaign or something.
Oh, right.
Which I think we discussed won't work. In the past, we discussed that. I think I've seen many people using drones recreationally or for work. A number of photographers are using them now. I think perhaps the issue is they're so cheap. If they were the more expensive drones, people are looking after, they're being careful when they fly them. You can go out, get a drone for 20, 30 quid. There's no need to be careful about it. You fly it. If it gets broken, you go out and get a new one. I think perhaps the fact they're so cheap is driving more and more people to get them and be less and less responsible with them.
Right. Ian Fielder, welcome. Great to see you again. Now, complaints. Why would people complain about them? Do you think it's something worth complaining about?
I think it can be. There's a potential for intrusion on privacy. As Peter and Michelle pointed out, that without a licence, how do you know people are competent? If you go and buy one and happy to write it off, you'll write it off because you're not competent. So the drone can be taken over areas that intrude on people's privacy. We've all read stories of mobiles and drugs being taken over walls into prisons. So they are being used in a way that is illegal, and I think licensing is the way forward. And yes, I think they do intrude on our privacy.
Well, let's have a look at some of the guidance then. Following complaints about a drone flying in the Godsill area, just looking at this article here, causing a nuisance, the island's country watch team has advised they must not be flown above 400 feet in altitude or 500 metres away from the person controlling them. And permission must be sought from Civil Aviation Authority before exceeding these limits, and drones should not be flown within 150 metres of a congested area or 50 metres of a person or vehicle. And if a drone has a camera, obviously you mentioned some privacy issues, people should be informed prior to being recorded.
But without, as Peter said, a national campaign, people go and buy a drone. How do they know that if there's no licensing? So we've already heard stories of pilots coming into Heathrow saying about near misses. Obviously Godsill on the Isle of Wight, they're worried about private planes. There is a potential for them to be a nuisance. Without some level of control, I think that it could lead to something that could be disastrous.
There's something we didn't really see much of 3 or 4 years ago, were they? I mean, it has taken off. Peter, were you going to add something?
I think themselves drones, I think, are great. They've got, obviously, they were developed for the military. They've got loads of uses in law enforcement and things like that. The media have made great use of them, both for reporting news and also in entertainment media, filming things that perhaps would have been really hard to film before. And a lot of community groups are using them as well to get stunning photography that they wouldn't have been able to get that they can use. I don't necessarily think a licensing scheme would work myself, because when are they going to check the license? Are you going to check it when it's bought? In which case, how are you going to make sure it's only that person flying it? Are you going to check when it's being flown? Which means you've still got the same enforcement issues as the guidelines. I think what people need to look at is, are people really being careful with them? And people just need to think, I'm flying a drone like this, and I'm fine with it, but if somebody flew it over my garden or flew it this close to my child, how would I feel? And just think about how it would affect you instead of how you might be affecting other people.
So this is a TV campaign to make people more sensitive, awareness raising, rather than the more penal approach of licensing. What about the noise they make? A lot of people find that noise a little bit irritating, or even a little bit, I don't know, eerie maybe? Have you heard the noise they make? I
have heard the noise some drones make, but actually people talking about the noise reminds me of a couple of years ago when they were building Queen Alexandra Hospital here in Cosham, and people said, oh no, the helicopter can't fly all the time because the helicopter flying over my house would be disastrous, it's too noisy. I think actually we've seen that the noise from that helicopter isn't too bad, and that is a lot louder than a drone is.
You get used to it.
You get used to it after a while, and if drones are becoming more popular, we're going to get used to the noise.
Yeah. So you're not for licensing, Ian. You're for licensing.
I'm definitely for licensing.
I'm definitely for licensing.
Yeah,
Right.
if I'm in if I'm at a stadium and I want my burger delivered, by drone to where I am, fantastic. But I'd like to think
Never
the
thought of that
person.
aspect.
Well, you go to the States, that's exactly what you see. I'd like to think the person handling it was licensed and was competent.
And it's quite a new phenomenon, so we'll see how that pans out. I know
You could have your fish and chips delivered by drone. Do you realise that?
I thought they were just for security and film.
Oh, no,
I didn't realise
no.
they could actually be
Yeah,
remotely controlled
they are
to
useful,
deliver.
as Peter says, for reporting, for camera work, for media. Absolutely fantastic. But the people who use them are well practiced and know what they're doing.
It'd be interesting to know how many complaints there have been. I was going to introduce a pun and say a lot of people are up in the air about them, but I don't know how many complaints we've actually had. So
We all thought you'd drone on about it. So
this is a pun show today.
Michelle told me to say that.
Blame me.
Right, you prefer to be known as Shell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I got the apostrophe in the right position. Right, going back to cycling again on talk and staying with the Isle of Wight, and thanks to a government grant of £1.3 million, the Isle of Wight will be investing in more sustainable travel and getting more people walking and cycling. The Isle of Wight Council is attempting to save 3,000 tonnes of carbon and cut more than 20 million private car kilometres travelled on the island, and massively increase the number of journeys by foot and cycle. So this is another initiative. Sounds great. We can't be doing enough of this, but how effective do you think this might be in getting people out of their cars? Maybe we can start from this end this time, Ian.
I think it's a great initiative. I think every point they're trying to make, through exercise, getting people out, cycling, walking, absolutely fantastic. I'm not quite sure about the argument about making, carbon savings. If you think everybody's got to get to the Isle of Wight, I wonder if they've taken that into the equation. Not quite sure. But as an initiative, I think the Isle of Wight is a fantastic place. We've spoken on this programme about people wanting to ban cycling in the New Forest.
Yes.
We've got an interesting juxtaposition here of the Isle of Wight saying, come to us, enjoy the Isle of Wight. I think it's a fantastic initiative. Well worth the money.
And Shell, what was your reaction? Do you think this is going to get more people out of their cars, or maybe it'll only work in temporarily and then people will just go back to
I think it's more of a temporary basis. I'm a little bit worried because I think it's more of a nationwide issue. We're a generation where we like things, and I can't really see people, especially my generation and peers,
Not mine.
getting out there and doing stuff. I think again we've got to target the schools. We've got to put our focus into the children to encourage them to get out, enjoy the outside world. And I'm a little bit worried because obviously I don't know about Isle of Wight, but I know here a lot of schools are selling their, where you've not got the grounds to do stuff. But I think it really needs to be focusing more of it, obviously not everyone, but the majority of it has to be focused on, you know, school children age.
They're talking about the council joining forces with the education, business and tourism sectors to try and save, obviously we mentioned the carbon tons of carbon and the private car kilometres. But also they want a net increase of 1.17 million walking and cycling trips over the 3-year period of the initiative. And this is a grant from the Department for Transport. Is this encouraging to you, Peter,
I think it's a good
just a
move.
bit of more sticking plaster?
Yeah, I think this is something that could go on for a while. If we look at people getting outdoors, I'm involved with the Scouts, and over the last 40 years or so, the Scouts have grown a massive amount every year. So I think young people are wanting to go out. I think older generations are wanting to support young people getting out and about. And I think actually this is something that could work really well on the Isle of Wight and then spread to other areas and hopefully to more urban areas like Portsmouth and Southampton.
And just picking up on Cheryl's point, I can tell you that the grounds and play areas of the school are probably the most protected. I'm involved in a new build in Portsgrove, and you can't lose any of your play space. But I do support what you're saying, getting the schools actually involved in the initiative and getting people out of their cars to walk. I think it's fantastic.
I'm optimistic as well, actually. I'm not supposed to give my opinion, but I think that, you know, the more of this, I think there will be some change over time. So, if you want to let us know stories that we can be talking about, then do email us on talk@thatsolent.com or tweet using the hashtag TalkSolent. Coming up, we'll be talking Visit My Mosque and the migrant crisis. Back with you again very shortly after this.